Bonjour. Nous devons tous mettre le Canada d'abord. C'est pour ça que les conservateurs condamnent les tarifs massifs, injustes et injustifiés du président Trump sur notre économie qui était déjà faible. Le Canada est le plus proche voisin, le plus grand allié et le meilleur ami des États-Unis. Nous partageons la plus longue frontière sans défense et avons combattu à côté des Américains dans 2 guerres mondiales, une guerre au Corée et en Afghanistan, là où on a perdu 158 Canadiens en combattant pour répondre à une attaque contre New York et Washington. Il n'y a aucune justification pour le traitement que nous recevons aujourd'hui. Et nous devons avoir un plan pour mettre le Canada d'abord. Les libéraux doivent mettre de côté leurs intérêts partisans et rappeler le Parlement maintenant pour adopter un plan le Canada d'abord qui va, 1. Prendre des mesures de rétorsion en appliquant des tarifs d'$1 pour $1 afin de maximiser l'impact sur les entreprises américaines tout en minimisant l'impact sur les consommateurs et entreprises canadiens. Cela signifie de cibler les produits américains dont on n'a pas besoin, où il y a d'autres sources ou alternatives, ou, encore mieux, des produits qu'on peut fabriquer ici nous-mêmes. Je donne l'exemple de l'aluminium et l'acier. On peut le produire ici. On devrait ramener la production ici, au lieu de continuer d'importer l'acier et l'aluminium américains. On doit, 2, investir toutes les recettes dans l'aide aux travailleurs et aux entreprises. Donc, chaque dollar que nous récoltons avec des tarifs doivent aller dans les mains des consommateurs, des travailleurs et des entreprises canadiennes, pas dans les coffres du gouvernement. Ça signifie une grande coupe de taxes et d'impôts. On doit, avec urgence, adopter une réduction massive de taxes et d'impôts pour soutenir notre économie, arrêter l'inflation et sauver et créer les emplois. Le Canada a besoin d'une réduction massive de taxes et d'impôts sur le travail, l'investissement, l'énergie, la construction de logements et la fabrication de produits ici au Canada. La taxe carbone et les hausses de taxes sur les gains en capital libéraux doivent être les premières à être supprimées. 4. Immédiatement abandonner la loi libérale anti-ressources C-69 et donner le feu vert aux projets créateurs d'emplois tels que les projets GNL, y compris GNL Québec, les pipelines, les mines, les usines et les expansions portuaires vers le marché outre-mer. Ça doit être l'investissement privé qui produit de la richesse au lieu de simplement dépenser encore et encore sur la bureaucratie. 5. Instaurer un véritable libre-échange à travers le Canada en supprimant les barrières interprovinciales afin de contribuer à remplacer les échanges nord-sud perdus avec les tarifs de M. Trump avec un échange est-ouest pour nous rendre plus autosuffisants et plus collaboratifs économiquement. C'était ridicule, même avant les tarifs de Donald Trump, que nous nous bloquons, qu'on bloque des produits d'une province à l'autre, qu'on a plus, maintenant, aujourd'hui, 2 fois plus d'échanges avec les Américains que nous avons entre les provinces canadiennes il faut éliminer toutes ces barrières pour permettre un échange, libre-échange au Canada. 6. Reconstruire notre militaire et reprendre le contrôle de nos frontières afin de regagner la confiance de nos partenaires et d'affirmer notre souveraineté, protéger notre population et mettre le Canada d'abord. Il faut être clair. Renforcer notre frontière, ce n'est pas pour plaire à Donald Trump. On aurait dû le faire auparavant. C'est pour protéger notre population. C'est pour mettre fin au chaos dans notre système d'immigration, aux armes illégales, qui proviennent des États-Unis, qui comprend 80% des armes utilisées en crime. On doit fermer les frontières aux criminels, aux drogues, aux armes et aux gens qui essaient de traverser illégalement pour notre intérêt. On doit le faire pour les mères et les pères qui perdent leurs enfants au fentanyl. On doit aussi rebâtir notre militaire, pas pour M. Trump, mais pour avoir un pays qui est vraiment souverain, capable de se défendre. Il faut aussi bâtir des liens avec des entreprises et des travailleurs américains en leur convainquant d'agir pour mettre la pression sur l'administration. Des familles qui vont devoir maintenant payer plus aux États-Unis pour l'essence, pour le logement. Les entreprises qui vont devoir congédier des travailleurs américains à cause du fait qu'il y a une nouvelle taxe sur le gaz et le pétrole du Canada. Ces entreprises-là devraient être nos alliés. Les bâtisseurs de logements qui vont devoir payer plus pour le bois d'œuvre devraient être nos alliés. On devrait ramasser une coalition des intérêts économiques aux États-Unis pour mettre la pression sur l'administration et enlever les tarifs. Dans 2 ans, il va y avoir des élections aux États-Unis pour le Congrès et le Sénat. Il faut que dans tous les États qui dépendent de la relation avec le Canada, que les membres du Congrès et les sénateurs se disent en faveur d'un libre-échange et vont mettre la pression sur le président Trump pour renverser cette décision destructrice. Encore, il faut mobiliser notre propre économie, unir notre monde et combler notre potentiel. J'ai un message pour tous les Canadiens aujourd'hui. Je sais que vous avez de l'angoisse, que c'est une période d'anxiété. On avait déjà une économie très faible, avec un coût de logement qui avait doublé. Il y a 2 millions de personnes qui ont déjà été en file d'attente pour des banques alimentaires. Les Canadiens étaient en train déjà de souffrir. Et maintenant ça. Comment trouver de l'espoir? Il y a de l'espoir. Nous avons le 2e plus grand montant de terrain au monde. Nous avons 4 côtes vers les océans, directement ou indirectement. Nous avons le 2e plus grand montant de terrain et le 5e plus grand montant de terrain agricole. Le 3e plus grand montant de pétrole, le 5e plus grand montant de gaz naturel. Hydroélectricité, 41 millions de personnes intelligentes, éduquées et travaillant. Nous devons maintenant remplir notre potentiel. C'est maintenant un appel à tous les Canadiens et surtout à la classe politique d'éliminer les barrières que les gouvernements ont mises devant les Canadiens pour nous permettre de faire échange entre les Canadiens, de développer nos ressources, de rapidement bâtir des logements, de rendre le travail payant encore, de permettre nos entreprises de produire plus, d'engager plus et de servir plus de consommateurs avec moins de paperasse. Un pays moins bureaucratisé, un pays beaucoup plus productif. C'est ça le but. Un Canada qui est sécuritaire en renforçant ses frontières et en rebâtissant son militaire. Ces priorités étaient importantes avant les tarifs du président Trump et maintenant, elles sont absolument essentielles. On va agir, on va protéger notre pays, on ne va pas reculer devant ces menaces et ces tarifs. Et on va être plus fort après. On va être un pays uni, un pays fort, un peuple qui met le Canada d'abord, le Canada avant tout, le Canada toujours. Merci beaucoup. And now in English. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We must put Canada first. And that is why common-sense conservatives condemn President Trump's massive, unjust, and unjustified tariffs, which will damage both American and Canadian economies. Canada is the United States' closest friend, greatest ally, and most important neighbor. We share the longest undefended border. We fought alongside the Americans in 2 world wars, Korea, and Afghanistan, where we lost 158 of our brilliant young men and women to avenge the attacks of 9/11 on New York and Washington. There is no justification whatsoever for these tariffs or this treatment. Canada will never be the 51st state. We are an independent, proud, and strong nation. I'd like to speak first to our American friends. You are our friends. You are our neighbors. We share the longest undefended border in the history of the world. You buy our products, and we buy yours. You have a trade surplus with us when energy is excluded. And when it is included, the deal is even better for you because you buy our oil and our gas at massive price discounts, not because we're nice Canadians, but because here at home we've made really dumb decisions to prevent us from exporting our energy to any other countries. But either way, Americans are better off with this friendship. We share a continent, we share the same risks and the same potential enemies from around the world. Those kinds of enemies can metastasize into real dangers and actual attacks, as you saw suddenly and unexpectedly on 9/11. It's good to have friends when those sorts of things happen. And let me ask my American friends this question. Even if you believe in tariffs, how is it possible to put a 25% tariff on Canada and only a 10% tariff on China? In what strategic mindset does that make sense? If it's to do with fentanyl, the fentanyl is coming from China. It's killing our people too. We both have to do more to stop it, but we can do more when we do it together. Now, here at home, my message to the Liberal government: put aside partisan interests and recall Parliament. It is insane that in this great crisis, Parliament is shut down to deal with a crisis and a power struggle within the Liberal Party. Let's put aside partisan, political interests and recall Parliament to pass into place a common-sense Canada First plan. And here's that plan. 1, we must retaliate dollar for dollar, carefully aiming those tariffs at maximizing the impact on American companies while minimizing the impact on Canadian. We must maximize the impact on American companies while minimizing the impact on Canadian consumers and businesses. That means targeting U.S. products that A, we can do without, B, we can buy elsewhere, or C, best of all, that we can make here at home. That best example of that would be steel and aluminum. We make the best and cleanest steel and aluminum here, but we've lost a lot of jobs to China and the United States. We should put tariffs on American steel and aluminum so that we can bring home that production to this country. 2, the tariffs must not be a tax grab. None of the money from the tariffs should stay in government coffers or be spent on unrelated government priorities. All of it should go back to the workers and businesses that are affected, and most of it should go back in the form of a massive tax cut. And that is why I'm calling for the passage of an immediate emergency bring it home tax cut. The tax cut would be designed to save jobs, create jobs, crush inflation, and boost our economy. We need to cut taxes on work, investment, energy, home building, and making stuff at home. Let's start by axing the Liberal carbon tax and the Liberal capital gains tax hike. They should be the first on the chopping block. 4, we must immediately scrap the Liberal anti-energy law C-69 and greenlight job-creating projects now. That includes LNG plants, pipelines, mines, factories, port expansions, so that we can get our products to overseas markets without going through and profiting the United States. It was insane for us to block our industries before this crisis. It is a fatal mistake now. No longer can we tolerate special interests, politicians, and worst of all, corporate lobbyists who profit by shutting down industries, blocking resources in Canada while profiting off them in Brazil, the Middle East, China, and elsewhere. We must bring home production and self-reliance to our country. Which brings me to 5. We need to knock down interprovincial trade barriers to have truly free trade across our country. We are in this state because we sell twice as much to the Americans as we sell to ourselves. These interprovincial barriers are destructive, they kill jobs, they drive up consumer prices, and they cost the average family $6,000 a year. Let's knock them down, and let's be a truly free trading economy ourselves. 6, we must rebuild our military and take back control of our borders to regain the confidence of our partners, assert our sovereignty, protect our people, and put Canada first. Let us be clear. Our border needs to be taken back into our control, not to please the President, but to protect our own people. The fact that we have 20,000 to 500,000 people here illegally, according to the government, was a problem before these tariffs. The fact that we've lost 47,000 people to fentanyl overdoses should never have been allowed to happen. We must secure our border to stop the guns that are killing our people. 85% of gun crime is done with illegal guns smuggled over the border. We must secure our border, again, to protect our own people and save the lives of our own children. And we must rebuild our military to protect our sovereignty, assert our strength, and keep our nation strong and free. Finally, we must lock arms with American economic interests that favor Canada, the workers and businesses that depend on trade with Canada should be marshaled to pressure the administration to back down. We must go to key states that will be up for grabs in the congressional elections 2 years from now and let their congressmen and senators know that they will be running on a bad economic record if refinery workers have lost jobs because Canadian oil can no longer make it to them, or if young families can't buy homes because lumber is even more expensive for home builders, or families that are already suffering from inflation are paying more for gas because our energy has become more expensive due to American tariffs. We must lock arms with all of those economic interests in the States to build an American coalition against the tariffs and in favor of free trade between our two great countries. As always, we will stand strong with growing confidence. We are the second biggest landmass in the world, 41 million brilliant people, the third biggest supply of oil, fifth biggest supply of natural gas, biggest supply of uranium and potash. We have not one, two, or three coasts. We have, if you include the Great Lakes, we actually have 4 coasts that can take us to tide water. We have the biggest supply of fresh water anywhere on Earth, the fifth biggest supply of farmland. We should be the richest nation on Earth. These tariffs are a wake-up call that it is time for us to meet our potential. It is time for us to be a country that can trade with itself, a country that builds homes quickly for its youth, a country that allows entrepreneurs to succeed quickly and profitably so that success is once again rewarded, a country that allows hard work to pay off, a country that harvests its own resources, that secures its borders to protect its people, that builds its military to protect its sovereignty, unites its people to protect our common history and common future. We will always put Canada first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Let's bring it home.
Thank you. We'll now take questions from the floor.
Hi, Jared Yeager here from the Western Standard. And if you could answer in French and English, please. So just hours ago, Trump said on Truth Social he believed Canada would, quote, cease to exist as a viable country, unquote, without the U.S., and hinted again that he won't end the tariffs until we become the 51st state. So I want to know, at what point is Canada's relationship with the U.S. beyond repair? And is there even a path forward for reasonable negotiation with someone like him at the other end of the table?
Our friendship with the Americans is not based on any one politician. It is based on our centuries-long history of trade, of friendship, of common defense, of fighting on the battlefield, arms locked together against common enemies. We will continue to build that friendship with the people of the United States. But let me be clear, we are an independent and we are a proud nation. And we will come through this an independent and a proud sovereign nation. We will not back down. We will not cease. We will continue to march forward as proud Canadians. Thank you.
En français.
Notre amitié, l'amitié des Canadiens avec les Américains, c'est avec le peuple. Ce n'est pas avec un politicien ou l'autre. C'est avec les Américains, nos alliés. Nous avons travaillé avec eux pour protéger notre sécurité commune, pour combattre les ennemis dans plusieurs guerres. Nous avons eu les relations d'échange le plus prospères dans l'histoire du monde. Et il faut que nous continuions de bâtir des liens avec ces gens, ces citoyens sur le terrain. Ici au Canada, nous allons défendre notre souveraineté, nos frontières, notre histoire et notre futur. Nous serons forts et unis pour combattre ces tarifs et ces paroles injustifiées et injustifiables.
Thank you. Next question.
Jennifer Maher de Radio-Canada, vous demandez à Justin Trudeau de rappeler le gouvernement que les travaux reprennent d'urgence à la Chambre des communes pour adopter un plan d'urgence. Est-ce que vous vous engagez à appuyer un plan d'urgence déposé par le gouvernement? Une réponse en français et en anglais, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, évidemment, c'est impossible de m'engager à adopter un plan que je n'ai pas vu. Et la question, c'est vraiment pas M. Trudeau, parce que c'est lui et pas moi qui a fermé le Parlement. Donc, je trouve ça un peu bizarre de mettre la pression sur les conservateurs d'adopter un plan qui n'existe pas dans un Parlement qui est fermé par les libéraux. Nous nous engageons à adopter rapidement un plan Canada d'abord. Un tel plan serait de répliquer aux tarifs, dollar pour dollar, de massivement couper les taxes et les impôts pour stimuler l'économie, supprimer l'inflation, et sauver et créer des emplois, annuler la loi C-69 pour rapidement approuver des projets comme GNL Québec et d'autres qui vont produire la richesse, enlever les barrières d'échange entre les provinces pour avoir un libre-échange ici au Canada, rebâtir notre militaire et notre frontière pour nous garder sécuritaires et rassurer nos alliés, et finalement bâtir des liens avec des entreprises et des travailleurs américains afin de mettre la pression sur leur gouvernement d'enlever les tarifs. C'est ça un plan pour mettre le Canada d'abord. Et oui, j'appuierai un tel plan déposé au Parlement.
In English?
Well, the question was whether I would support a Liberal plan in Parliament to respond to the tariffs. Well, we haven't seen any plan, so it's very hard for me to say whether I would support something I haven't seen in a Parliament that is shuttered. The question should be for the Liberals why they have shuttered Parliament in the middle of a crisis. They have their own power struggle going on right now, and the country is left largely leaderless and in chaos in the meantime. We need to recall Parliament to pass a Canada First plan, and that would include tariffs that match the American tariffs, target products we don't need, can get elsewhere, or make ourselves, use the money from those tariffs only to help the workers and businesses that have suffered and not to fill government coffers. We need a massive bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, home building, energy, and making stuff in Canada. The purpose is to stimulate our economy, crush inflation, and protect and create jobs. We need to immediately repeal C-69, the anti-resource law the Liberals brought in, which is making us more reliant on the Americans and less capable of producing what we need here at home. We need to rebuild our military and secure our borders, to protect our sovereignty and our people, and we need a massive campaign among American businesses and workers in order to pressure the administration to reverse these unjustifiable tariffs. If that plan were put before Parliament, I would vote for it today. Sorry, who's next? Sorry.
I'm being pushed out of line for some reason. I guess CBC is allowed to ask questions now. You have talked about
sometimes we like to hear from local media.
Do you believe the government's promise of $155 billion in counter tariffs is enough? And what would you do differently to get the president to change course? And to clarify your last question, are you saying that you would step aside and not compete for the head of the country to allow us to get through this crisis? Or I'm unclear about your answer to the last question.
Well, I find it a strange question. CBC is asking me to step aside in the next election. It's a very strange request. No, we're not going to suspend democracy. The Canadian people run this country, and they will choose the next Prime Minister. Thank you very much. Next question.
Thank you. Next question.
Thomas Seal from Bloomberg. You mentioned the economic jeopardy for American refinery workers in your remarks. Is Canada's negotiating position today still weakened without the prospect of restrictions or export taxes on its biggest export by far, energy and crude oil?
Well, I think the reason that Justin Trudeau has refused to answer that question, and the reason why numerous Quebec leaders have surprisingly, to some might be surprised to learn, have come out against it, is because it's not clear how Western oil would actually make it to Quebec, given that the oil we transport from Western Canada to Quebec goes through the United States, goes down into the States through lines 5 and 9 and back up to Quebec. Of course, Eastern Canada has to import a lot of Eastern American oil because we don't have a transnational pipeline. Furthermore, we don't export any of our natural gas to any country other than the United States because the government here has blocked LNG export plants. So the question then becomes, where else would we export our oil and gas? And I think we're all starting to realize just how absolutely reckless it was for Mr. Carney, Ms. Freeland, Mr. Trudeau to block pipelines and other resource projects that would have made us less reliant on the United States. And so all of these suggestions of blocking Canadian energy exports have to be followed up with a question. Where else would you sell our resources? Yeah, right, but we have nowhere else to sell it. So that is the question that, these are the questions that have to be answered. So far, the Prime Minister has said that he does not want to divide the country by attacking one industry in one region against the other, and I actually commend him for those remarks, and I agree with him on that.
This will be the final question.
Alex Zoltan, True North. Question is, do you believe that tit-for-tat tariffs with the United States could lead to a trade war that Canada cannot win?
Well, I believe we're already in a trade war, and I believe no one will win. I think both countries will lose. And that's my message to our American friends. Why? Why would you want both of our countries to lose a trade war when we have the most successful trading, security, and geographical relationship that any two countries have ever had in the history of the world? Why would you want us to lose, both of us? Because that's what's going to happen. This will make America poorer, weaker, and less safe. Will Canada lose? Of course. We're both going to lose. So let's stop losing on both sides of the border. Let's hammer out our differences and actually trade more. That would be a winning solution to all of this, and that is the message that I will bring as we put Canada first. Thank you very much.